Next up on the Sonic Advance trilogy, we are doing Sonic Advance 2, with the same rules as the last one. Like in that video, I haven't beat any of the Sonic Advance games before doing these videos, so this is my first time beating Sonic Advance 2. So I am a bit unfamiliar with the game's mechanics, boss fights, and level design. But without any further ado, here is the Sonic Advance 2 Ultimate Challenge. Ding. Oh! The rules are mostly the same. No abilities such as the random kick you can do for some reason, the air dash is a no-go, and the insta-shield is an obvious no. I will allow the spin dash unlike some other classic games because usually it's always necessary. However, there is one game mechanic that I will be required to do later in this game, so I will get into that when it is relevant, but I am allowed to use it for the rest of the game. Sonic only. This means that we can't have a partner, which I'm not sure if you can even do in this game, so I don't know why it's here. Likely because it looked consistent on the thumbnail, except for Advance 3. Never mind. No checkpoints. I can touch them, however, if I die, I have to restart the entire level using save states. Speaking of which, I will only use save states for that purpose, and not during the levels. No Chaos Emeralds because I want to beat this game as base Sonic, and finally, I cannot kill a single enemy, which I classify as if Sonic comes into contact with them in ball form and releases an animal, then that counts as destroying a badnik. With all the rules out of the way, let's advance through the second game.
Sonic Advance
2. Leaf Forest Zone Act 1. Now, as always, the first level is a hold right thing, but one thing I like better about the second Advance game compared to the first game is how much more fast-paced this game is compared to the first. Now, the enemies are not a problem in this level, as you just have to damage boost past them, or you can just jump over them. Either way, the level's over with quickly. Leaf Forest Zone Act 2. Like Act 1, this was a hold right level, and there's not much to offer. Just jump when you need to time jumps and avoid enemies, and yeah, the level's over. Maybe it's too fast-paced. Leaf Forest Zone Boss. Yeah, the bosses have separate levels, and I've never been more glad that this is the case, with how ridiculous the boss fights get towards the end of the game. In this game, you have to chase down Eggman and destroy his contraptions, which is an interesting idea for a 2D Sonic game. The Egg Hammer Tank 2 is easy to deal with, as all you just have to do is jump over the hammer and just hop into Eggman's cockpit, and we save Cream, and now we can play as her. Yay. Moving on, Hot Crater Zone Act 1. Now this level suffers from the same issues as the previous level. Just hold the direction that you need to go to and then jump over enemies and obstacles, and the level's already over. Hot Crater Zone Act 2. Now, unfortunately, like Act 1, which was very unfortunate because I really like the theming for this level. Just jump over things and hold right and the level's just done. Well, thankfully the next zone will be the final instance of this, but it's still sad regardless. Hot Crater Zone Boss. Now the Egg Bomber tank was really simple, as all you had to do is hit the cannon enough times until it explodes. Please don't take this out of context. And the zone is cleared. Music Plant Zone Act 1. Now this zone is more involved than the last ones, but not to the point where they should give you any trouble. This is a very bouncy zone. Just be careful while avoiding enemies and appreciate the aesthetic of this zone, and it's unfortunately quickly over. Music Plant Zone Act 2. Like Act 1, deal with the bounciness of the level and avoid enemies, and the level's done. I'm starting to think that the levels in this game aren't going to be memorable for their level design, aren't they? Music Plant Zone Boss. Now, for some reason, the egg totem gave me some trouble. You're supposed to use these platforms to hit Eggman, but my smooth brain thought to destroy the little cannons on the totem, but that only ever makes the fight easier and doesn't have any progression whatsoever. But eventually, I got my together and beat Eggman and saved Tails, and he will not bother me until the next game. Now we can actually start this challenge. Ice Paradise Zone Act 1. Here we go. The first level that actually gave me some trouble. There are a lot of moments with these swing things where I would often accidentally kill a badnik, and there are so many bottomless pits in this level where it's not funny. Curse you, Dimps! This was the first time in this challenge where I had to pull out a map to try to figure out a route I should go. I found that going to the top route and trying to cover as least distance as you can while swinging will reduce your chance to hitting an enemy, which helped me clear the act. Ice Paradise Zone Act 2. Now I found it to be a little easier than Act 1, which is interesting, but I apply the same method like I did for the first act, avoiding enemies and being careful with the swing pole, and then we clear the act. Ice Paradise Zone Boss. Now, I have no idea why, but the Sonic Advance 2 bosses are giving me some trouble. And the Arrow Egg was no different. You have to jump over the bombs and use a platform to hit Eggman, and that was rather tricky. But eventually, we take it down, and we can move on. Sky Canyon Zone Act 1. Now, this is where the death pits get out of control. So we use this fan to get to max speed, and then we can make it to this part, which according to the map, there is no way around it, so this left me a little stumped. Until I found out that this game had aerial moves. Remember when I said this was my first time playing the advanced games to the end? Well, now because it is required, I will use the higher jump aerial move, which will also, for some reason, give us an extra 100 points. From now on, I am allowed to use this move to traverse through the game. Call it cheating, but remember that I wasn't allowed to spin dash until Sonic 3 and Knuckles, where it required the spin dash. And just allowed it since, depending on the game, so yeah. Deal with it, this is my video. Soar through the level, and repeatedly die to the death pits, and just wing it to the end. Sky Canyon Zone Act 2. Now I found that the extra jump was useful, as I can now avoid getting hit by enemies, which is convenient, and for some reason, in order to grind on rails in the advanced games, you have to be on the flat part of the rail, which was never really clear, which made that a little frustrating. And those death pits are the bane of my existence. But we get over the level after a while. Sky Canyon Zone Boss. Now we have to deal with the egg saucer, but Eggman is nowhere to be seen. Try to carefully destroy the laser, and then the glass encasement to free Knuckles, as the hand can insta-kill Sonic, which is a little frustrating, so you have to time it out. Eventually, we destroy Knuckles' prison and free Knuckles, and then find out that it was a cockpit and Knuckles was tricked by Eggman again, and thus starting Knuckles' declining IQ. Moving on. Techno Base Zone Act 1. Oh boy, now we're starting the last few zones, and they are the ones I have been struggling with for this challenge. There are so many death pits and instances where you can fall down, so you gotta be careful. I had a damage boost through the bandits a ton in this level, so I just looked at the map for the level, and just went with the flow of the level, doing things in a trial and error method. I died over and over again for a little under half an hour, until I finally beat the level. Techno Base Zone Act 2. Unfortunately, this might be even more difficult than Act 1, as I didn't understand how rails worked in this game until I was at the very last level with rails. Remember, this is my first time beating this game. I had to stick with the higher path of the level and pay attention to the map to where my location is, using major location pinpoints like loops or path branches to try to understand where I am at. I used the extra jump to my advantage and eventually beat the stage. Techno Base Zone Boss. Now the egg go-round was somehow one of the simpler fights in Advance 2. Just use the platforms and hit Eggman while avoiding projectiles, spinning platforms, and spikes, and that's really it. We then take down Eggman, and we can start the final major zone. Egg Utopia Zone Act 1. Here we are, the mandatory final Sonic zone that has to take place in space. This level has anti-gravity mechanic, like some other Sonic final zones that take place in space. and this was obviously the zone that had to take an hour to complete, and the extra jump was a lifesaver in this level with all the death pits. And don't collect the invincibility power-up, as that can cause you to run into and kill enemies, which sucks because these are the longest levels in this game. But eventually, the level is over with, and we can move on to the final major level of this game. Egg Utopia Zone Act 2. Now, because this level took me half an hour to beat, I will go through how to beat it to artificially extend the video's runtime and to make it seem like the final level was more dramatic than it actually was. Start by holding right and go through a sick grind rail section and avoid this badnik and go on this rail and do an aerial jump to this platform and shoot out the cannon. Hold right until you shoot out another cannon and then start grinding in space, then improvise, and then go onto these springs and collect the shield, and then land on the flat part of the rail and then fall down to more rails, then hold right for a little bit and then go through the hoops and then carefully avoid this enemy. Then we make it to the final space section, then we hold right and be careful about this buzz bomber wannabe badnik. You suck. And then ride a platform to the end of the level and we can move on. Egg Utopia Zone boss. Now, the egg frog was a pretty stupid boss fight. I tried to hit him, but sometimes it was impossible for me to not get hit myself, which was super frustrating, to the point where I had to look up a guide and then figure out I had to hit up to switch gravity. Who would think to do that? It was never explained in a level, so why would I think to do that in the boss fight? Jump over the explosions, get some rings, and switch gravity when needed, and defeat Eggman. And we can move on to the final level. XX. That's an odd name for a final level. What is Sonic Advance 3's final level gonna be named? Oh no. No. You gotta be kidding me. A boss rush? For all the bosses I thought were already lengthy and hard enough on their own level are now extended to a whole level. That's it! You fat, baldy, Sonny McNosehair. You'll pay for your crimes against humanity. I will dismantle every single one of your stupid machines you put together. Okay, time for the final phase. And ironically, it's the easiest boss in this entire game. Well, I'm glad that all of this is over. Sonic then does a Sonic and Knuckles pose as the space station of the week explodes and celebrates. Oh, we forgot Vanilla. Don't tell Vector. And Eggman looks at us as if he was saying that we were supposed to collect them Chaos Emeralds, then give it to him. And that was the Sonic Advance 2 Ultimate Challenge. Now that we have completed the second of 3 original Sonic platformers on the GBA, we can say that yes, it is possible to beat the Sonic Advance 2 Ultimate Challenge. I am scared to see what the third game will do to me. So that video will be releasing next month from this video releasing. Until then, start quaking in those boots because Advance 3 will get interesting. Do